Welcome, welcome. Welcome to the 9th meeting of the 41st session of the Faculty Senate of Texas A&M University. If you, if you need a reminder of the Zoom features used in our Senate meetings, the Zoom tip sheet can be found on our website at the top of the current agenda page. At this time, please make sure your microphone is muted. Senator Klein will be monitoring the raise hands functions. He will verbally identify you, then you can unmute your mic and ask your question. In fairness to others, please limit yourself to one question at a time. Senator Klein will also be monitoring the chat to convey messages as necessary, so please send any chat questions directly to him. We are using the registration function of Zoom to track attendance. Most of our visitors today have been asked to view the meeting via a live stream, but our guests and administrators who may be asked to answer questions are joining via Zoom. Visitors wishing to address the Senate may make this request by sending a chat message to Senator Klein or by using the raise hands function. Additionally, I want to remind everybody to be respectful in the chat stream as well. Thank you very much. Finally, if a senator wishes to offer a motion during today's meeting, please raise your hand at the appropriate time and ask to be recognized. Now, on to speaker comments. I trust that everyone had a good spring break. This is that time of the year when everyone is heads down in the semester, getting through midterms and working towards the end of the semester. On an unfortunate note, this continues to be a tumultuous time for Qatar faculty. There will not be an incoming class this year for them, and working with the other local universities seems like it will be difficult. In addition to many of our own local faculty here, TAMU-Q faculty have also felt targeted by the media, as well as being worried about their job status. We will discuss Qatar and its status and what they have been going through towards this end of this meeting. This is a great time to support your colleagues. When people receive negative feedback about their jobs or from the news, it is vital that the faculty hear support from their close colleagues. I know that the Office of Faculty Affairs has been working night and day trying to support the faculty, both at Qatar and those in the news. I have also been continuously personally contacting faculty who are going through a hard time right now. The faculty I spoke to were very thankful of the support they received from Faculty Affairs and the university and felt supported from them. They also mentioned that they appreciated my reaching out to them. However, those who felt the most supported were those who described the strong and meaningful support provided by their close colleagues and friends. So in this trying time, I encourage you to remember the importance of your own support to your colleagues and friends. Please reach out to them. It is a hard time for many of us right now. With that, it might be appropriate time to remind everyone that a survey will be sent out to you on April 2nd to start the JED Mental Health Program. Nancy Farnweld, the Associate Vice President for University Health Services, will be here to present more on that next month. On a good note, I saw a great many of you at the joint meeting between A&M and the University of Texas. Thank you, Speaker-elect Angie Hill-Price and Chair-elect Stella Flores, for organizing such a wonderful event. It was a fantastic meeting with a great number of things coming out of it. One particular highlight was during Harrison Keller's speech, where I learned about two things. The first is that high schools are going to start helping every high school student prepare a college application starting in their junior year through the Apply Texas program. This will allow students to start receiving automatic admissions as early as the fall of their senior year. This should give all students a leg up in the application process, especially those who may not be experienced in the college application process, such as our first-generation students. The second program is called the Texas First program. In that program, if a student graduates in 3 years instead of 4, they will receive a scholarship for their first year of college at a Texas institution. This should help encourage our super smart students to get a head start and choose Texas for their college location. I expect Texas A&M to see a large number of those students. I am very proud and excited for both of those new programs. Also, Senate elections will be coming up soon, so I encourage you to run again and encourage your colleagues to run. We need great, strong faculty to support our shared governance. You should have received a request for nominations in your mail today. And before I close my speaker comments, I would like to remind the committees that I expect them to give a 2 to 3 minute update on what they discussed during their last meeting. You can talk less than 2 to 3 minutes, but please not more than 3 minutes. Caucuses may also provide a brief update if so inclined. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the first of our 2 guest speakers today. Our first guest speakers will speak on behalf of some upcoming changes in IT. Those speaking on behalf of those changes will be Dr. Juan Garza, the Associate Vice President for Enterprise Application Services, along with Mr. Ed Evans, Associate Vice President for Enterprise IT Operations. Juan and Ed, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me get our PowerPoint presentation shared. It's wonderful to see you all this afternoon on the first day after spring break. Dr. Garza and I are pleased to have a moment just to speak with you regarding how we're working to across technology services. We're working to create an excellent service experience. As we talk about this topic, we have really 3 areas that we want to touch base on. First, just give an overview of the scale and complexity of our university from the perspective of the services that the select number of the services that we offer. Second, beginning to provide a little bit of an overview of where we are with creating a unified help desk experience, unified ticketing experience, and then wrapping up with some of the work that is going on at Howdy. So as we move forward here, discover a little bit about IT. And most of these statistics are taken from the first part of the spring semester, right? Because what we hope to communicate here is, oftentimes as we hit the end of the semester, particularly those December holiday time periods, we see very low usage, and then immediately when everybody begins coming back to the university for the start of classes, we see very high utilization of key systems. So here's just an example from our network bandwidth utilization. On the first day of school, or really the weekend before the first day of school, we see bandwidth starting to spike. Around the first day of classes, you can see here we reached 27.5 gigabit per second, which, that's a data point. What does that really mean, right? Well, first, of course, it was a little bit delayed because we had inclement weather, and so it didn't exactly align to the first day of classes, but compared to at least one report that I've seen for average household bandwidth speed, that's about 415 megabit per second. So there's 1,000 megabits in a gigabit. So you can see how far ahead we are of most household utilization as we begin to peak out. Unique Wi-Fi clients. Certainly, it's one of the areas we've seen changing as our student body evolves and as our campus evolves. We see about 150,000 devices on one day in the second week of school, right? So about 150,000 unique devices, and that averages out to about 2.2, a little over 2 devices per person here on our campus. But again, 150,000 versus 9,300 devices, unique devices, the week before classes start. As we start looking at university email, everybody's favorite topic. I know I certainly love all the email that I receive. During that week before, in the first week of classes, we send across campus, we sent just shy of 1 million emails, right? But we received almost 9 million emails, and we read just shy of 6 million of those. So that's about a 65% read rate, or enough for 562,250 100-page books, if we were turning those emails into novels. However, I think as we think about the scale and complexity of our university, which is really what we have to design for, we can't design our systems for those low usage times. We have to think about the peak usage. And even if we think we get a lot of email, email security is one of those things that we take very seriously. So I went back a little bit before the start of the semester to last October, middle of last October, November, and pulled some statistics about our email protection, the security aspects of email. So roughly, we have 171 million emails that are inbound to our university. That's those secure email gateway features right there. They're designed to tackle the task of checking for increasingly complex security standards to ensure integrity between sending organizations or sending individuals and Texas A&M, and likewise when we go to send emails to others, they check reputation, they make sure everything is configured correctly in order to be confident that those are legitimate senders. That's a big way that we filter out spam messages right from the beginning. So over about 115 million emails out of that 171 million get filtered out immediately because they're from organizations that don't meet the standards, don't meet the requirements to exchange email with Texas A&M. Then we get into more sophisticated, advanced threat detection activities, and I won't break those all down for you, but they're malware. It contains a bad payload, right? Attachment or something that's going to do harm to our computer. Phishing threats where people want to target individuals to get responses from them, or business email compromises, even more sophisticated types of threats where they might be fake invoices or attempts to redirect funds for payments or things like that. All of these, every one of these different stages reduces the amount of email that gets delivered. So in this particular month, there were 171 email messages bound for Texas A&M and just shy of 56 million that were actually delivered. So that's about a 50 to 60% of inbound emails that are actually filtered out, depending on the particular month. Cloud storage is another one of those complicated and large-scale systems that we support. With Microsoft, we have just under a petabyte of data. Google Storage, we've got just under 8 petabytes of data altogether. If you get a little more precise, we've got about 8.7 petabytes of data stored in the Microsoft and Google clouds. And if we're trying to think about what that is in terms of things that we can actually maybe touch or grasp a little more carefully, a little more tactically, 1 petabyte, if those were all movies, 1 petabyte would be about 11,000 4K movies. And if we were watching those nonstop, it would keep us busy for about 2.5 years. So 9 petabytes times that, we'd be busy for a long time watching movies. Dr. Garza?
I just want to give you some updates on how the course utilization for Canvas this last spring. We have basically 15 out of the 16 colleges using it, 90 departments, as you can see this slide. And as of March the 6th, we have 5,278 courses out of the 13,000 courses. So some of the stuff that was excluded is the research courses, some of the PE courses and so forth. Roughly represents about 39% of all courses are using Canvas currently. Essentially, the first week of classes, next slide, Ben. We had roughly 1 million page views. Ed was talking earlier about the fact that we have to start figuring and looking at things from a scale standpoint, but essentially 60,000 students at the beginning of the semester start looking in Canvas and trying to figure out different things from whether their courses are ready or not, or everything's ready to go. We see this peak and it sort of dwindles down over the semester, and it averages anywhere from 680,000 to 720,000 views. So if you guys start publishing courses and material out there, the students are basically getting into Canvas on a daily basis. We see an uptick at the end of the semester heading into finals at about 1.1 million. Makes sense. People are looking for their exams or trying to turn in papers or other activities. So we see 2 peaks in this particular system on time. One of the interesting things to note is, as part of this peak, at the beginning of the semester, on the first day, we had about 1,900 courses ready available. By the 5th class day, there were 4,000 courses available. We've seen a slight uptick now to 5,300. We'll get to probably 5,400 as the semester progresses. This is a natural thing we've seen over the last couple of years in Canvas, post-pandemic. So we average about 5,500 courses a semester available for students that faculty are using to teach. Next slide. We see something very similar in Howdy. This spring, so you can tell the first class day, we had about 182,000 logins in that given day. People are looking for payment of schedules, paying tuition and fees. As Ed was talking about, we have to start scaling for this peak. Normally, we get down to that 62,000 to 70,000 logins a day from the students, faculty, and staff as they're logging into Howdy to be able to do things, move forward based on the day-to-day from the academics. But we start seeing a kick up in two other areas. We've noticed that it goes up to close to 130,000 once registration kicks off, which will start in the next couple of days. And then we see it kick up again, not surprising, after a grades post. That usually only hits about 71 to 72,000 logins. So we see a lot of activity, and we have to basically make sure that we monitor and manage for those peaks. Other times that we see a huge increase is really in the fall semester. The fall semester makes this 182,000 look small. We get to close to 300,000 logins during those first couple of days during the fall semester. Everybody, anything from new students, new faculty coming in, or students just getting reacquainted with themselves. Next slide, please. The next part is Ed's going to talk about what he's calling or we're calling it, Division of Technology Services, the Experience Transformation Project. Ed?
Thank you. I'll take a second to address one of the questions that I see here, one of the comments I see in the chat about the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History having difficulty due to misconfigured servers contacting us by email. It's not uncommon for our information security and risk team to do some collaboration with environments like that. So we'd be glad to, we'd certainly make that connection between the two organizations to in an attempt to help alleviate that problem and make sure email flows well. There's just in the last week, I can think of an organization that I know they've been working with to make some modifications.
And just if you're going to answer a question, I just wanted to add one more, which is I know that whenever I look at my spam filter mail that you guys send out, a lot of them have addresses from tamu.edu, which are clearly not spam. It feels like there should be a whitelist for faculty and staff, and maybe somebody has marked their emails as spam, but it still shouldn't be spam across the university. We shouldn't be classifying our own emails as spam.
We can take a look at that, and I can share back also. I'm confident we have some instructions on how to adjust the sensitivity of the spam filters. Perhaps too might be of assistance in some situations as well, but I'll bring that up with the group as well. Okay, so as we move to the IT Experience Transformation Project, the origins of this project were really from recommendations that we create a unified ticketing system for the university, right? But as we began doing that work to implement new software, there's really so much more we needed to do with regard to bringing processes together, creating transparency around university services provided by technology services, and reducing the lost ticket counts, right? So today we have about 17 different systems that capture tickets and log them for the university. So it creates a hot potato experience, but also, like I said, there's just new ways that we need to work. So this was more than just implementing a new tool. It was about really changing the way we serve the university. As we started that work, really a foundation of the work to be done was creating a service catalog. And the service catalog really lists out all the different capabilities, not necessarily tools and products just, but the services that come from those tools and products, right? For people to use as they interact with IT. And looking across all of A&M, we identified about 1,200 different service offerings grouped into 150 different service categories. And so it's an overwhelming number. Even when we removed duplicates and eliminated some that were eliminated some service offerings that were that have been have been deprecated, we were still around about 800 different service offerings. So we looked at EDUCAUSE, which is a national higher ed IT organization, and adopted their service catalog model as we began eliminating duplicative services and began realigning services to in a customer-centric way. We're expecting that we'll reduce that 1,200 number down to about 350 or 400 service offerings as we complete this work. And that has been also informed. We did a service prioritization exercise that was informed by faculty, staff, student representatives from campus as we prioritize really our top 10 buckets of services to do work on. So here's an example of what that might look like. Our biggest bucket would be service categories such as communication and collaboration, moving over into example services like email and collaboration services, where you might find things like help me with my inbox, or I need a new email account. Here's where we are with regard to our roadmap and milestones for our service experience project, or IT experience transformation project. We've been going through, we've begun some administrator training, a little bit of user training, but mostly working through our plan for rollout. We have governance established with an advisory committee that's made up of faculty, staff, and students, as I mentioned, as well as an operational committee, which is really very broad, about 50 people, making that up from across the A&M and our branch campuses to help with change and people who are boots on the ground to answer some questions about that. We're well on our way to having our top 10 services developed and laid out for implementation of the tool. That'll go live in the May timeframe with those services, and it'll be a continuous improvement process as we roll more services out and as we grow the capabilities and functionality. We expect, though, those top 10 services will answer about 70% of the questions, or provide assistance with 70% of the questions across the organization. So this is again, is a very high level overview. I've got a project website here that provides more information, including the names of the people who are on that, or on the different committees for the IT Experience Transformation Project. And a special call out to Dr. Lane, Dr. Chico, and Dr. Falvo for their assistance and engagement on the advisory committee. And certainly can send email to our project email address, which is tdx@tamu.edu. All right. As we move on with our next discussion topic, Dr. Garza.
I wanted to give you a preview of what we've been working on over the last year or so. We've been working on reimagining and reskinning the Howdy system. We've had 23 members who were part of this committee. It included 8 students, 5 undergraduate and 3 graduate, 3 technical staff, 1 person from Marcom, and then 2 faculty members. Dr. Stoddard and Dr. Laporte were part of that committee. And essentially what they came back with and told us is simplify the overall navigation, and it should be search driven. The overwhelming consensus from everybody there was, right now, Howdy, the way you have it designed, is too noisy, it's outdated, and it's hard to find stuff. There's stuff that's not there that I like or I need. And when the resources are found, please provide as much information as possible in a single page and a way to be able to do that. With that, I want to give you guys an overview of what the new Howdy page will look like. So this is an example of what the approach is going to look like. So when you log into Howdy now, going forward, you'll be able to see this page. And this page is basically not logging in Howdy. This is actually your front page. So if you want to basically get to Canvas, bus routes, or other applications, for an example here, and any other trending applications, you automatically go to there. You don't have to necessarily log into Howdy to be able to get that. You will still have to log into those applications if they have net ID and password requirements. So we've updated the look and feel, the search capabilities, and it also has a section there for trending. If anybody is looking at other applications or other specific processes, we've built in solutions to be able to show the trending applications that are going on. So they'll shift over the semester as people start utilizing it differently. Next page. Once you log into Howdy, it's going to have that similar look and feel. You're going to have my favorites tab up there, my task, features, and trendings. All these are going to be role specific. The my favorites, there's a little heart button down here, and it'll provide you the ability to basically just pin your favorites to the top. So you basically just go directly to what you need going forward. And the my task is going to be an ongoing process. It's going to be building workflows. So you have a change of major, you have a grade review. Those type of tasks will be able to be logged in automatically. You won't have to be going fishing around and looking at Howdy now to be able to find those solutions. The featured tab, we control those. Those are things that are basically going to be featured as we go through the semester. When I say we, it's going to be the working committee and the steering committee that will provide us guidance as we move forward. And then the trending tab is going to be anything that people within the roles that exist now, whether it's faculty, staff, or students, those are going to be the trending tabs for those particular sets of populations as we move forward. This look and feel is basically provided to different groups of populations. We're providing you to give you guys an update to get familiar with it. We're not looking at launching this yet. We're looking at doing a soft launch through the summer and through the fall. And once the executive committee gives us the go ahead, we'll start replacing the existing Howdy look and feel as we move forward. Next page. In order to basically figure out how to make Howdy easier, one of the overwhelming things is how do I search for stuff? So we're using Elastic on the back end search, and we're using natural language processing to be able to search all A&M websites internally. So when you do a search, it'll give you a predictive search of the request. This is an example of somebody looking for a grade change. It'll pull information to be able to say any basic text-based word. So it's close to a semantic search. It's really using a K nearest neighbor approach. We have not gone full out on some of the stronger ML models and some of the other LLM models with tokens. The solution that we have has the ability, but we're going to do the crawl, walk, run approach. Get familiar with this technology as we move forward, and then we'll start looking at it. And yes, it'll be checked for accessibility. We will have conversations with the accessibility group to be able to review that. We do that now with Howdy going forward. So the accessibility group will check all this information going forward. The notifications that you see a tab now, you see that little bell, that's where it's going to live. So as you log in, you'll be able to see that, and it'll be personalized going forward for individuals. This was the overwhelming approach when we sat down with those groups to be able to provide us. But we expect additional feedback from that working committee and others that may want to join in order to basically build out specifically the task or the workflows that's required now for faculty, staff, and students when it comes to specific items as we move forward. When Ed talked about customer experience, we want to reach out directly to you all to be able to provide us exactly how you want to engage with some of these technologies, because you're the user base. We'll design it based on our approaches and our technical acumen at that point, based on the needs of the organization. Like I said before, we have a meeting with the executive committee later this month. They will provide us guidance on when we can go live. We're looking for a soft launch. And that's all I had. As always, we're here to serve. We're here to basically help. You can reach me at my email address is up there, or Ed Evans. I joked with Ed, I was going to give him your phone number so you can call him directly. He didn't think that was funny. He also took it off the slide. But if you have any questions for us, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question regarding Canvas, and this happened, the last time it happened was during the finals week of the fall semester. At the time of the start of the exam, basically no one could log into Canvas, and there was panic for about 15-20 minutes before the thing came back on. And the only saving grace was that I had a paper copy of a couple of workout problems which I could give out. And this led to a lot of stressful situation for most of the students. And what are you going to do about this from occurring in the future?
So I can answer some of the things that we did during the pandemic. We worked directly with Canvas and gave them a listing of the possible peak solutions. of the timeframes for exams, we can go back to their solutions engineers so they can be prepped to basically allow that to be expanded based on scale, based on our needs. We just have to work with the vendor and provide them information. During the pandemic, we did that specifically to be able to house over 300,000 enrollments during that time, but we can basically bring that process up.
Yeah, because this is likely to recur again during finals when everybody's logging in, and depending on how many exams are being administered at any point in time, this could be a potential issue. And us being in front of the students are faced with this situation where everybody's panicking and trying to get us to resolve it, which obviously we can't.
And I apologize for that occurring. The only thing I can tell you is we'll basically start pulling the logs to be able to give that information to infrastructure Canvas, our vendor, so that we can have that dialogue so they can be prepared for that surge.
Okay, thank you.
I think I'm next.
Andrew, Senator Klein, you can go ahead and handle the questions.
Senator Laporte, please go ahead.
Oh, thanks very much. Hey guys, well done. I think it's absolutely staggering to see the amount of emails that is coming in all the time and how many are blocked and what's happening. And I agree with Tracy with the white paper to be able to check for things that are going into spam that maybe shouldn't. The How Do You Reskin one is looking really beautiful, and I'm looking forward to to it being soft launched. I know that there was a secondary project going on with university calendars. Can you speak to that at all, or was there any kind of centralized location for calendars on campus and being able to sync them with our own calendars? And I did have someone ask me also, in Howdy, is there any way to kind of have, like, instead of getting emails about, you know, when the attendance certification comes out, when the grade submission comes out, when the final grade submission is due, that could be synced into calendars and somehow be synced into our own calendars to stop the flow of emails. But overarchingly, you guys are doing a fantastic job, and it was more just a shout out to say, well done and thank you.
Thank you.
Great idea, Katrina.
On the calendaring thing, like I said before, if you bring that to us during that working committee, we'll see if we can figure out how to integrate it. I can't promise you anything because I got to get the technical folks to work on it, and we'll have to set up a priority for it. But when we spin up those working groups again, please let us know, and we'll see if we can get a solution for you.
I think Senator Sassangohar has his hand up next.
Thank you. Just want to second the sentiments. Great job. Seems like very exciting work. I had a comment and a question. The question is related to expenditure on features for our IT platforms like Zoom, Canvas. You see features coming on and off. How was that decision made? For example, recently, we lost the generative AI detection in Canvas for Turnitin. I'm sorry for that report. And the faculty were not involved in that decision. I mean, we ran in the loop. We just one day disappeared. And some of us we actually used it quite a bit. So can you comment on, what happened with that specific tool and in general, how these decisions are made? And the second comment is on Lockdown Browser. And, do we have any plans to get something more reliable for distance learning examination? Because this system is not reliable. It keeps freezing. There's no support whatsoever. So it's really failing us. So I appreciate your response to those two.
So I'll try to answer the first question. The fact is that you're talking about the Turnitin generative AI detection solution. That specific solution was sort of a bait and switch from Turnitin. They gave it to us and turned it on for free. And then on December, you either had to pay an extraordinary bill to them or they shut it off. The university made a decision that they did not want to do it because there has been questions even from other universities about its accuracy. We've done an analysis with Dr. Johnson's office to review exactly how valid its detection approach is, and other large universities have not turned it on because it's questionable on how accurate it is. with a bunch of false positives. But Dr. Johnson may be able to answer that question. On the lockdown browser, there is an executive LMS committee that can start that conversation. I think Dr. Laporte may be on that committee. I'm not sure, but that's something that you can bring to that group so you can have voice specifically about if that solution is not working for you, how does a university intend to move forward either off of that or find a better solution? I hope those answer your questions. I can't get any more direct information than that because that's all I know at this point.
Senator Miranda had his hand up next.
I wanted to also emphasize Dr. Laporte's comments that a really well done job and very impressive. The issue that I wanted to talk about is the huge stream of emails that come in. Is there any possibility of doing a deep dive into these emails to see whether certain kinds of faculty are getting a higher proportion of spam emails or threat emails based on maybe their scholarship or things like that? Or is that too much of a dense data set to try and parse out?
I think it'd be my opinion off the top of my head would be it'd be very complicated to begin tying that into research publications or things of that nature and develop a correlation directly. I can from my own experience, I've been here at A&M for about 18 months, been part of the A&M system for much longer than that, but been part of our university for about 18 months. And I noticed after about 8 months, people seemed to find my email address, and I started getting a lot more calls from vendors or emails from vendors and things of that nature. So I would suspect the more public our email addresses are, that the more likely they are to be identified and have information sent to them. But I'm not certain. I think it'd be very complicated for us to go through and try and do an analysis to begin to quantify that. I think we can, as I offered with Dr. Hammond, share back some information on how you can whitelist or blacklist certain types of emails to automatically allow them or deny them delivery into your email account using some of those tools that we have for filtering out spam or catching things. And typically I try about once a month to go through and do that myself, just to look for things. Are there things that I get that's actually legitimate email, but it's not email that I want? Can I unsubscribe from it or put it on the denial list so it's rejected and doesn't hit my inbox?
But it sounds like you're saying that most of it is likely to be fairly innocuous, like vendors, for example, or things like that. Nothing trying to specifically target groups of people because of their activities on campus, scholarly or teaching.
I think we do occasionally see sophisticated attacks where people are targeted specifically for their scholarship or research activities in particular. That was back into some of the business emails that I had mentioned, right? The business email compromise. And I have seen, I don't have good insight into it from my time here at A&M, but from other universities I've been at where people would are part of very sophisticated attacks to redirect funds or interfere with grant applications or things of that nature. So I think the best thing that we can all do, right? Security starts with the individual. Make sure that we're very vigilant in detecting those emails, reviewing those emails. I can also say they're increasingly complex, and so when in doubt, give us a call if you're having trouble identifying whether there's something that's legitimate email or suspicious email. Please, we can call Help Desk Central, and we'll see. We can make sure somebody helps you identify that, because there are times even I have to ask.
Senator Ariave has his hand raised next.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. So I have a question. It's not related to the email system or Canvas or Howdy, but security, was touched on. And one of the things that I have noticed is that my machine, the one that I use for my day-to-day work, is, centrally controlled security-wise. It's a Mac, so we have a security system, that controls a lot of the stuff that I can do in the computer. But one of the things that I have noticed, and we have had some exchanges of emails in our faculty discuss listserv, is the fact that, at least in my machine, the resources that the security system is, using is significant. My machine right now is crashing almost every day because of insufficient memory. And I have a pretty expensive state-of-the-art Mac that uses, sometimes is using like 20 gigabytes of memory are being used by the security monitoring system in the machine. So I understand the importance of security, but it seems to me that the new iterations of this security management system are becoming just too heavy, right? And if I'm having trouble with a super expensive state-of-the-art machine, I cannot imagine if I had my old Mac, right? It would be basically impossible to run. So I am really concerned because it's like the answer to this is to just move to a personal machine that I connect to the network, right? To do my day-to-day work. And I'm sure that this is not what Texas A&M wants, right? So I am really concerned about this. I do not know if there is a solution that can be handled centrally through our, vendors, but it is extremely concerning. I don't know.
It's hard. It's challenging to comment on a specific situation. Although I'd be glad to make sure we reach out to you and have made sure that we've optimized what's running on your computer. But it is certainly something that we've recognized, in particular, as we're working to bring endpoint management together across the university, right? That each department had done things a little bit differently, and we're trying to optimize the number of security agents that are running on all the computers so that they're not causing adverse impacts. But I'd certainly be glad to follow up with you and see if there's something we can do to help with your situation.
So I received a question in the chat I think you'll probably want to answer. So what's the future of having enterprise services from both Google and Microsoft? Can we expect to still be able to rely on both of them for external storage?
That's a great question. What we're seeing from both Google and Microsoft is they had originally offered many of these services for free to university environments, and in recent times have moved from an unlimited all-you-can-consume model for free to setting limits on those platforms. Of course, as you noticed in the slide, Google's used much more extensively here than what Microsoft is at this particular point in time. Google's not going anywhere. We know it's a vital platform for the university, and we're working through recommendations to finalize those now. We've had some great feedback already from some faculty groups, and in the next few weeks we should have more recommendations that we can share. I want to say it again, we're not going to be getting rid of either platform.
I'm going to go to Senator Cote. He's not had a chance to ask a question.
Thank you, Senator Klein. Ed, hi. I'm one of the senators in the School of Public Health, and my question is an issue that was relayed to me by one of my colleagues. The School of Public Health sometimes does research that can be, well, controversial, especially in light of our experience with COVID-19. My colleague has been receiving threatening emails related to his work on vaccine hesitancy. And the concern is, what is the process related to this? This obviously isn't phishing. This isn't the Nigerian prince. This is a true threat or a potential threat to one of our faculty colleagues. What do we do with things like that, please?
So I would say we want to make sure we've engaged the appropriate authorities at the university so that can be investigated as a potential threat, right? That's not necessarily an information technology or email function, except that we could certainly help somebody set up set up rules so that those types of emails get deleted or refiled into a folder so that they're not right there in the inbox. But we want to make sure also that the correct authorities from UPD or other appropriate groups are involved to help investigate that, to make sure if there is something going on that it's dealt with through those channels as well.
Thanks, Ed. I mean, so related to that, and maybe this might be helpful to my fellow senators and their faculty as well. Who do we start with? You said the appropriate authorities. I mean, it's not just our department head or our dean. So who and how does this start?
You need to talk to University Police, and Faculty Affairs is the link. They're really working on threatening emails for you. So Heather Lynch might be able to contact if she's here.
And you can send an email to our help desk and we will get you in touch with UPD.
Yeah, we have a formalized process for things like that we're working on improving. So if something is not working, we need to know and figure out how to fix it.
Great. Thank you, folks.
Absolutely.
Senator Laporte has her hand raised next.
I'm sorry, Senator Cody, I completely concur with your question. I have been subject to threatening emails in the past and just didn't know what to do. And as a result, I just shut my mouth. But I wanted to return to the Turnitin Canvas thing, because this is a pain point for many faculty, and I'm getting notes behind the scenes on this. And I don't want to speak for Michael Johnson, but I see both sides of the scale here. Here we've got a bait and switch from Canvas with then a big bill, and we've also got the fact that Turnitin has many false positives and doesn't accurately detect it. And on the other hand, you've got faculty with huge writing classes, myself included, where I'm dealing with 3 or 4 cases of AI use per week and having to have one-on-one conversations with those students. And so some faculty are saying, why can't we just turn it on, knowing that we have a really bad false positive rating, just as more like an elf on the shelf deterrent, so that students know that people are at least watching. Personally, I've kind of pulled back from both of those ways of thinking, and it's a shameless self-plug, but I'm in the process of organizing a student-faculty dialogue with regards to AI and what students think and what faculty think, and trying to get them more on the same page. So watch this space for more details and a date and everything. But Dr. Johnson, I just wanted to give you an opportunity here to speak to the faculty about Turnitin, if you would, because it is a real pain point for faculty who are teaching. And just to articulate once again, I know you've said it once before, but the problem that we have with it.
Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. So the issue, as Juan pointed out, was we were victims of a bait and switch, and the company turned this on without our knowledge, made it available to our faculty, and then told us that if we wanted to continue the use of this product, which has a high false positive rate and questionable efficacy, that we would have to pay a lot of additional money just for the end of this contract. And it's not that was going to get us a year or a significant amount of time. It was just that we could use it for the rest of this contract, and then we would have to be upgraded to the next service level or the next bundle of the Turnitin software, which includes this product. And so a decision was made that it didn't meet the efficacy to cost ratio. As I noted in the chat to Dr. Moynia, we're working, or nope, sorry, wrong person, different. Dr. Cunningham, we're working on getting a list of tools that can integrate with Canvas, and will be able to not only look at submitted writing assignments, but also hopefully something that could look at the chat as well, because I know that that is a significant pain point for some of our faculty in addition to writing assignments. And we're going to look at the cost of those and the efficacy of those. And if we can find something that meets that efficacy to cost ratio that we think or deem is appropriate, we will try to move forward with it. But right now, I'm just asking that you be a little bit patient because we're gathering the data and we're trying to see what will integrate with the LMS, but also give us something that is at least reliable enough for what they're planning to charge us for it.
Thank
So I
you.
have
And
a
I
que-
apologize for putting you on the spot there. Thanks.
So I have a question in the chat. So you showed us what the new Howdy interface will look like on a computer screen, but will the new interfaces be mobile friendly? For
Yes,
example, the class schedule is not exactly easy to work with on a cell phone.
correct. We are working through that process now. We are about to release a new class schedule system. It's going to be running in parallel at the end of this month, but we are testing these on mobile phones. So they're actually responsive design approach. It's one of the new approaches that we're taking from a technical aspects going forward.
So Senator Hammond, I don't believe I see any other things that haven't been answered in the chat.
Great, great. Well, thank you very much to our guests. This has been very elucidating, and I think we all learned a lot. So thank you. And thank you, Heather Wilkinson, for providing some advice from Faculty Affairs as well. Okay, well, without further ado, we'll thank our guests and move on to our next guest speaker. So our guest speaker number 2 is Lieutenant General Jay Silveria. He is the Executive Director of the Bush School in DC and the Associate Vice President and Chief Operating Officer at Texas A&M in DC. So we have a DC campus now, and he's going to tell us about how exciting it is there and why you all want to go visit or more there. So without further ado, Jay, you're up.
All right. Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be with you. Thank you for the privilege of having a few minutes of your time today. Those of you that are DC familiar, this window here is looking down L Street to 16th and L, where the White House from 16th Street and Black Lives Matter Plaza is right around the corner. So to give you an idea of where we are at in DC, and we call it Aggie Lane East. So as Senator Hammond said, is that I've been running the Bush School, Executive Director of the Bush School in Washington, D.C. for about 3 years, and I'll catch you up on what that is. But the real reason I'm here today is talk about the expansion of Texas A&M DC and a new role that I've taken on as the Associate Vice President. So what I'm going to do is to walk you through what I think is the environment in DC, and then what the Bush School has done here, and then the what we're building out on the expansion of DC, and then I'll take some questions. And the way I'm going to do that is to show you a few slides. If I can share my screen. How'd I do? Someone, are we looking at slides there? Texas A&M University, DC? Somebody?
We can see them.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So these are the two titles that we've taken on. I started as the Executive Director, and the TAMU DC now is only me and one other person as we start to build that out. I'd said I'd talk about the environment in DC. There are over 70 plus universities that have set up some sort of program within Washington, DC that are from outside of the district. Certainly there are some famous universities within Georgetown and GW and Catholic and American, et cetera, that are in the district, but there are 70 plus that have shown up. This is a picture of a building around the corner from us that USC recently bought for $60 million for them to set up a program. But almost every imaginable university is here in DC. Most of the programs go from a semester in DC type model. We are rare in that the Bush School supports degree programs where you can start here and finish here, which is not the norm for the model in Washington, DC. A lot of them range from 1 week to mini semesters, semester in DC, et cetera. And I'll talk to you about some of that. So that's the environment that we're in right now. The Bush School DC, we opened in January 21 with 12 students. We actually, our first event was January 6th of 21 that we didn't have. And we were inside the security perimeter for a while. So a very interesting start for us here in Washington, DC. Right now we have 80 students. We're a mix of full-time and part-time. We've admitted at the moment about 60 students for the fall. We're expecting to melt some of that. And then with those that are finishing, we'll probably be over 100 for the fall. So from 12 to 100 in those 3 years. And 29 students have completed the degrees here. Our programs are in international policy and national security. The international policy is a degree that exists now in the Bush School, but national security and intelligence studies is a program that was designed and built through the process and then built to only be here in Washington, DC. We use 6 full-time faculty and then take advantage of being in Washington with adjunct professors. Our students are really a miniature DC in a lot of cases. The students work in state and treasury and think tanks and private sector, and all of our classes are at night, and they come from work. About a third of our students, a quarter to a third of our students right now are recent undergrads. When we had the National Security and Intelligence Studies program added, we now have recent undergrads that have started. Additionally, we started out hosting all sorts of events and speakers. There's probably somebody here on this call that has been to an event or some speaker. We take advantage of the city with ambassadors and members of Congress and senior officials and a lot of workshops that are hosted here from engineering and pharmacy and et cetera that I could go on about that we've had here. Last year, we had 71 events and about 3,000 people that came into our building. Just to give you an idea, the upper left, that's Ambassador Markarova with one of our professors, Shinkaruk. And then lower left is us. We hosted a fair for a number of the intelligence organizations in DC with our students. And then the right is Capstone that one of our departments, one of the professors ran here in for a semester using a client here in DC, which is part of the model of the program. The expansion in DC, we had 43,000 square feet and we're adding 20,000 more square feet. We're also adding an internship office to expand beyond the PPIP and ANRP programs that are very successful. From the first week that we opened up here, people were asking us for contacts for internships and job services. So we now are about to hire the internship person, and we will then, the next step will be the career services office. We're in discussions with Dr. James Hallmark of the system to build a system scholars program. It's up there labeled as the Bush Scholars Program. If any of you are familiar with the UT Archer's Fellowship program that's run in DC, similar to that. We looked around here in DC, University of California, University of Kentucky, and others bring students from around their system program and bring them to Washington, DC for a semester. So it looks like the system is going to fund that, and we're building that out and starting to hire the first program manager on that. The School of Medicine is going to stand up an institute here. Dr. Ware is standing up the Institute for Healthcare Access here in DC. And those other entities there are programs that have discussed with us the possibility of having programs here in Washington, DC. We're open for conferences, board meetings, short visits. We have all sorts of collaborative space, up to 150 seat in our lecture area and offices we've had someone from the College of Education who was here for a while, someone from the Bush School, not related to our programs, that was here doing some research on a grant for a while. So we also have offices that are going on. In addition to collaborative space and lecture halls, the lecture hall and classrooms and offices, in this build out, we are also designing recording space that could be used for recording podcasts or interviews video and audio. The Vice President for Marketing was just here today, looking around as we're building out, and President Welsh will be here on Thursday to look around for on how the build out and the construction is going on the programs. So that's the expansion here in Washington, D.C. The upper left will give you an idea of the conference rooms that we have here in the space, and lower left are our classrooms. While it looks like a simple classroom, we did have the luxury of designing and building during COVID of 2020. So a lot of our classrooms have 2 cameras, ceiling microphones and speakers, which allow us to zoom in and zoom out. And we have had professors teaching from Texas to 2 sections, one there and one here, and the other way where professors have taught here with a section in DC and a section back in Texas. And then bottom right is the street level view of where we're at along L Street. So with that, that's what I wanted to show you. I will stop sharing, and I'm open to any questions, and barring any questions, certainly, as was mentioned in the beginning, please come see what we have here. It's really a remarkable space and a remarkable location.
Thank you so much, Jay. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions? And oh, Senator Klein, there's a question.
Senator Taylor, his hands up.
Yes, Mr. Silveria, thank you for the presentation. Matt Taylor from the College of Agriculture. You showed on one of the slides how the College of Agriculture or entities within the college have expressed an interest. Do those programs that you work on or you sync up with in these other entities, are those programs necessarily related to issues of public policy, international or national security? Or does the facility in DC function as a point of congregation for any program? You know, so if the College of Ag says, hey, we have some things that deal with food security and biosecurity, that really sort of, that's a relationship? Or is it anything where agriculture students or faculty could come and you know, with the proper approvals, meet with executive branch, legislative branch employees of our federal government? So is there a, I guess what I'm getting at, is there a limit on the scope of the content or the focal point? Or is it, hey, you're A&M, we're A&M, come to DC and let us help you meet with those persons in our government?
It's really the latter. There are no limits. I mean, our program at the Bush School is, you know, to meet degree requirements. But beyond that, the 40,000 that we have, the 20,000 that we're adding, is for any program that Texas A&M, you know, wants to have a meeting and a workshop, a forum. We've hosted we had 150 engineers. We had 100 pharmacists that were here. The aerospace engineers have been here. We hosted helping out FEMA through some subject matter experts that helped FEMA. So the real answer is absolutely all of the above. It is university space in Washington, D.C. I've been, Cliff Lamb, Dr. Sable's been here a few times. Cliff Lamb and I have met. There obviously the ANRP is a famous program that happens in DC, but the idea is to start to think about, with the space here now, what if we had other programs that where you could teach classes here as well, and also have the internship programs, which is what we're building out on the System Scholars. So the real answer is it is A&M space available to put whatever A&M entity wants to book it. At this point, it's really a scheduling problem only, in that we have things booked out into 25.
So much like a United States consulate overseas, I figure I could be there and eat my brisket and no one would say anything about it.
Absolutely. In fact, I have to tell you that Dr. Sable, we have a space out here that is a open atrium area. And he came in and measured about how many grills could he put up, and how could he work in the space. You know him, so we're already thinking about that. But we have outdoor space. We've hosted a lot of receptions and networking events. Tonight, by the way, we have all the PPIP interns in the building. Tomorrow night we'll have the president, and we'll have all of those that are here for Aggies on the Hill tomorrow night. But yeah, it is an outpost in the wilderness that anybody can use for whatever they need.
Senator Alvarado has his hand up next.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, hello. Thanks for the presentation. Have you or anybody in the administration or the university had any discussions about making your office spaces more like a satellite campus where we can start offering courses in DC? Because I bet that there's a high demand for a lot of employees out there in the area for obtaining master degrees, for instance, right? And I know that there you have Georgetown University, you have other universities in the area, but I bet that for career development purposes, many employees working for Uncle Sam, let's say, they need to obtain master degrees to be able to move up, right? So has any discussions with the president about maybe creating a satellite campus in DC?
Well, that's exactly what we're building. So the Bush School has done that, and most of our students are working in the federal government, about 3/4 of them. Some are in private sector and think tanks, but a lot of them work for the federal government, just as you described. They are, say, beyond early career to mid-career that come here to take our degrees. And now with the expansion, this would be available for any school or college that wants to set up a program here. Dr. Ware, I mentioned a couple of times, she has established this institute, but she already has designs on growing that out in the future, potentially for other degrees. So any department or any college or school that wants to set up a program here, we now have the space available for them to do that. So the answer is yes. I've had a number of conversations with those schools that I've mentioned that are thinking about how they could build. The law schools had questions about how can they build out a Master of Legal Studies here, how they can have the third-year law a semester here. Ag has talked about having expanding for a semester in DC. So yes, I think that all of that is available.
And if my department wants to promote, we already have master's programs, promote programs through your office, do we contact you directly, or do we?
Yeah, you can start with me, and I'll get it out. I'll get it out to the folks that are here. But yeah, we're doing a lot of graduate fairs in Washington, D.C. We just did one on Capitol Hill recently, and we're visiting a lot of graduate fairs in D.C. to draw people to the Bush School programs. But doesn't mean that we couldn't also, because not everybody's looking for international policy or national security or intelligence. They're looking for other things. So we can certainly add those in. The Public Service Administration Department of the Bush School has next semester has started just what you're talking about, where they're going to start with a certificate in Homeland Security, where they're adding a new program here in Washington, D.C. So we are open to help you do that.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
So Patricia, I'm going to call on you next. I'll mispronounce your name, so I'm not going to attempt it.
I'm glad you did that. I would have done the same. Oh, you might be muted. Yeah. You might be muted, Patricia.
Sorry. I just have thank you for the presentation, and I have a question, a practical question. Those students that are currently working for the State Department, for example, do they receive any financial aid from the government or from A&M itself, or they pay their way?
There's a little bit of all of that going on. We have a number of students with us who employers, whether it's a federal agency or a company, are paying completely 100% of their cost. We have students that are receiving some assistance from their employer and some assistance from us. And then we have some students that are completely paying their way. Clearly, we're attractive in this market for a lot of reasons, but proudly, and I mean, I'll say unapologetically, right? A state school that charges a lot less than those other big privates that I mentioned. Excellent schools and excellent programs, but they can get a degree here with us for a lot less. But yes, they're getting financial assistance in a lot of different directions.
That's great. Thank you.
So Senator Hammond, there are no questions in the chat.
Okay, thank you, Senator Klein, and thank you so much, Lieutenant General. That was a really, really great presentation, and I'm excited to go there myself. I've been there, but it was about 12 years ago in your office, first opened up. So I expect.
Well, please, everyone, consider options that you have to grow here in Washington, D.C. and contact me, and I'll be ready to help you do that. We're building out a staff to help people do that, and excited to show off what we have here in Washington, D.C. in Aggieland East.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us. All right, we move on to our next section, which is approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the February 12th meeting minutes found in attachment B? Hearing none, I then declare the minutes as approved as distributed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any questions or concerns on the March 18th consent agenda items? Hearing no questions or concerns, I declare the consent agenda approved as presented. We now move on to the core curriculum council reports. Does anyone have any questions or concerns with the core curriculum council course report found in attachment C? Hearing none, I hear the committee report approved as submitted. Wow. New business. I call upon Secretary Klein to move approval of attachment D1. This is the student rule D. It's a 10.6 grading attachment D1.
Move approval of attachment D1, student rule 7.2.1.3.1.
Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, Secretary Klein, can you open up a poll?
Give me 1 second here. Uh-oh. We do not appear to have our polling thing. Something must have happened. Uh-oh.
Matt, do you have an idea?
I have more of a question that came a little late in the discussion point.
Okay.
If someone from the Rules and Regs Committee could, or whomever needs to, there's a point in red, or there's multiple points in red about the allowance of these procedures for non-birthing parents. Is there any specific type of documentation that someone would need to submit in order to verify, say, an order of adoption? Anything else that might be necessary that we need to write into the rule, or is that going to be allowed, or is that going to be assessed by dean and or designee, or is this a Title IX office? So I'm just wondering about how does a student, if necessary, if a student submits this, how do they verify this? Because adoption is one option, somewhat order of protection, something else, but what, if anything, are there particular types of anything that we need to make sure are either stipulated, or is that left up to the relevant office?
Speaker Hammond, may I ask that Jennifer Smith be recognized to address this?
Yes, please. Jennifer Smith, will you please address this?
Thank you. My name is Jennifer Smith. I'm the Title IX coordinator for Texas A&M. Over the last semester, we have taken over all accommodations for pregnant students. So when you have a student who approaches you and says, you know, my due date is on January 5th, and that's the date you have a test scheduled. If you would please refer them to our office. We have someone in our office that is reviewing these requests for accommodations, evaluating them, and then we'll reach out to the professor to work something out on how a student would make up the work, and we'll actually make a contract between the professor and the student so that everybody is on the same page as to what the accommodation is. This new rule that we're discussing is in the same vein. I have folks in my office that this is what they do all day long, is they evaluate these requests and ask for appropriate documentation from the student. And then once it's submitted, we approve or not as appropriate.
Does that answer question for you, Matt?
The point that Ms. Smith made about referring any student that approaches and initiates a conversation, and I assume they self-disclose that they are a non-birthing parent, they're about to facilitate or complete a legal order of adoption, a legal order of foster protection, something of that nature. Yeah, the point about referral to your office is well taken. It at least tells me who do I send you to, because that was really, yeah. I mean, I assume your office will vet the veracity of those types of documents. Okay. That part answers. Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
So we have a problem with our polling function, Senator Hammond. It has not appeared. So we are going to have to figure out how to do a polling function. Perhaps
I'm
everybody
going to
could raise their hand.
suggest
What?
Well, I was going to count it. Raising hands is probably going to be really hard. I was going to suggest that for the first one, well, maybe I try to set up a Google form for the second one, that people just type in the chat, yes or no, privately to Andrew Klein. And I will try to set up a Google form poll or something like that in the meantime.
I do apologize. We've had the same poll for all year. I don't know where it went.
Jorge, do you have another idea?
Well, he's going to receive a bunch of messages, so he will have to count
them. He'll have to count
a lot
them.
of yeses and nos. I mean,
yeah, I was thinking to do a quick Qualtrics poll or a quick Google form poll. That was my idea, but I thought, well,
Google Forms are probably way faster than.
That's what I thought. That's what I was gonna do.
Andrew knows how to count fast, I guess, but he's gonna be challenged to count fast enough. No.
Does it have to be anonymous?
It does not. In fact, it never was anonymous before we started.
Okay, so here's what I propose. I propose that we post the question in the chat, and then people just give a thumbs up or a thumbs down to that question in the chat, and you'll get an automatic number.
What
do you need?
The diaper bag.
I think Greg is speaking.
Where is my diaper bag? What's my
Greg
phone?
needs to be muted.
And
Can
my
someone
wallet?
mute Greg?
In front of your seat.
It was not me. It was Greg.
So here's, in case you didn't hear, here's what I was proposing. You pose the question in the chat, and then we use an emoji to either thumbs up or thumbs down it, and you'll get an automatic count on it.
Okay, I will type.
But everyone needs to understand how to do that. So
we also have to make sure that only the senators are voting.
Well, you can see
that's a
because their
problem
names
in
are
my
there. It's actually, so someone could quickly check. So I approve. Can you?
If I can interject.
Yes.
So thumbs up will not be perpetual. So there is a reaction.
Sorry, we're talking about here. Let's do a practice. I'm going to call this practice. Okay, now below my practice, there is you can reply, or you can do there's a reaction that you can do. And so you're going to vote by emoji reaction. Does that make sense to people?
Mm-hmm.
I think I see a bunch of people already responding to the emoji. So now you should, Ivan, you're supposed to respond to my emoji itself. So within the emoji there. And please don't, I mean, you can do okay, I guess, but I'm assuming, okay, making thumbs down means no, thumbs up means yes, and this also means yes, if you do okay. But please just do thumbs up or thumbs down to make our lives a lot easier. Everybody agree with that? Everybody know what we're doing? Okay, can Senator Klein, can you put the sentence in the chat of what people are voting on?
Yes, give me 1 second here.
I've lost my script screen because I was trying to set up a Google.
Sorry, can I say, Tracy? Hi, Tracy, can I say something?
Yes, go ahead, Mo.
Then obviously, I mean, if it's anonymous, people could see what you're voting for then.
This is not
never-
anonymous.
It's never been anonymous, only since COVID, when we jumped on here, has it ever been anonymous? Oh, it's always been that the votes have been non-anonymous.
Yeah.
And they've always been recorded. And so there's no real reason why we've ever done them anonymously, except for polls were easier that way when we were on Zoom. So there's, you know, there's no real rational reason to have it be anonymous. Okay. It is now, I move approval of attachment D1, student rule 7.2.1.3.1 attendance. And then you're going to click the smiley face and put a reaction. You're going to put a reaction and oh goodness. Clint, you made a new one, so.
It's okay, we can sum.
Okay. And I ended up doing just to Clint's by accident because it came as I was in the middle of pressing the button.
Okay, now everybody now can watch when they stop.
It's sort of more fun this way.
So I do not see any more motion. Does anybody see any more coming up? Of course, there goes one. What happens every time?
There's too many thumbs.
I think each skin color tone gets a separate emoji.
Yes, that's right. So let me add them up. Just give me a second.
Good, because I'm trying to find speaker notes.
61.
60.
Everybody, 40.
60.
Yeah, people stop putting stuff in the chat. It's hard to follow. So I'm just going to verify here. I believe there's 61. Am I correct?
I'm seeing 62.
I counted 62.
Depends
If you count the votes, if you count Clint's plus the votes for Clint's.
And Siddharth.
Oh, I didn't count Clint's. Okay. So 62.
Okay. And you counted Senator Rajan?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And I believe that it has a quorum and we are good. Okay, so next, I declare that passed. Now we're moving on to student rule 10.6 grading, which is in attachment D2. I call upon Secretary Klein to move. Well, first, is there any discussion? Oh, well, sorry. I'm supposed to call first. I call upon Secretary Klein to move approval of attachment D2.
I move approval of attachment D2, student rule 10.6 grading.
Is there any discussion? I'm waiting a little bit more, just. Matt, do you have the same question before? Okay.
Senator Alvarado has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm reading
the document here. So I guess that what is new is that an academic dean or designee will make a decision on behalf of a faculty member. Is that what the discussion is about? I mean, bypassing instructors from making a
Speaker like
decision
Price,
about-
can you tell someone, or do you want to speak? Go ahead.
Yeah, so the issue was that the rule says that a student only gets one absence basically for something. So what happened was a faculty member proposed a change to the rule, and the idea that if a student has like something that goes on that causes them to be absent for more than one thing. For example, they might have a final project and a final exam due in a class. Well, technically, they would only be excused from one of those. And so this was to permit, with all the proper documentation, to make sure that those students could be excused for more than that. The reason being, not to overrun, but already the rules permit the dean's designees to do the excused absences, which has to be very documented because we have our ombuds and everything. So it's just simply to accommodate students who have more than one major event in a course at the end of the semester that they miss for an excused absence, to clarify that in the rule. And also keeping in mind that we have people who are using, and some people are doing that already. So the challenge is we have people who are using incompletes incorrectly. They're just giving it to a student who wants to take the course again next semester without actually taking the class again. You can't do that. So it was just to clarify when it would be appropriate to use, is all. It was never intended to overrule a faculty member, but to allow the faculty member to be able to, and then this was something that Dr. Carlisle pointed out when he proposed this rule change, is that technically if they have two different things in that same time period covered by their excused absence, they would not be able to make up both of those.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Senator Ramsey, did you have something? You had your hand up for.
I was just gonna emphasize the part about, like, if you read the way the rule is written in its current form, it explicitly says an incomplete is only appropriate when a student has not been able to complete for excused reasons one thing. So either an exam or a final project. And so that is not how I interpret it. If it's one excused absence that caused them to miss both events or both grades, then, and they're both at the end of the semester, then the student should get an incomplete. That is how I have been interpreting it. But there are some faculty that will read the student rule and give a 100% literal interpretation. And we want there to be some gray area, to where if a student has something tragic happen, or they're hospitalized or something, and that just happens to mean they missed the final exam and they didn't get to submit their final project, then they also qualify for an incomplete. So the rule as written, if read explicitly, as Dr. Price was saying, would exclude them from getting an incomplete. And we don't want that to happen, and it has. And so that's why we're trying to build a little bit more flexibility into the rules so that it doesn't get used in its most extreme literal way it's written as of right now.
Any more discussion? Okay, seems like we're good. Secretary Klein, can you put the statement in the chat, and we're gonna add thumbs up or thumbs down as we feel.
So what do we do now, just to be clear?
If you agree with that new change, you put a thumbs up based on using the circle emoji with a plus on it right underneath.
Or if you hover your mouse on Secretary Klein's comment, if you hover your mouse on it, there will be options that appear. Use the smiley plus that appears and go from there.
Okay, thank you.
I've
And
also
dot, dot,
found,
dot at the above the smiley face will give you lots more options.
yeah, I've also found that if I put my mouse on and just click on one of the other thumbs up, it tacks me on to that thumbs up. It may be an even more speedy addition.
Maybe in the future, we add one thumbs up and one thumbs down that don't count, and then everybody can just click on one of those.
Yeah.
But this time more people got it right, so we're learning.
Yeah, you're not supposed to type it in the message place where you would type your message. You type it under or on the message that was in the chat, not your own message space.
Yeah, Sudarshan has put up a comment saying that the Zoom changed polls with and combined them with surveys. So I guess that's the new format they have.
Surprise, surprise.
We will get it fixed for next time, but probably clobbered what we already had in it. Okay, does anybody want to do some calculations?
66.
That's what I got too. 66.
Yep, that's what I got.
66, yeah.
Me too. I declare that attachment D2 has passed. All right, next, informational item, talking about the proposed draft elections timeline calendar. Angie, you've been helping me with that. Can you speak on behalf of that just a little bit? I mentioned it slightly in the speaker comments, but.
Yes, yeah, so it was just looking at the timeline to make sure that we have adequate time for the elections. It's just following the process. As you know, we have a new person in the Faculty Senate office, so I'm working with her to get this all set up. And so you should have received in your college, if you have a senator or a seat that is open this semester up for re-election, you should get nomination survey for your college. Some smaller caucuses do not have an open seat this semester, so you would not have received the email. So the nominations go on for 2 weeks, and then so you can self-nominate or nominate someone else. Please consider nominating people, self-nominating. It does show who the incumbents are, and that's for informational purposes. Some people are not running for re-election. If you know that you're not running for re-election, for example, in your, though I hope you change your mind, but you'll see your name on there as the incumbent. You can let your faculty in your college know this as well. And then the next, in April, it'll actually, because Friday, the 29th is a reading day, the nominations will actually close on April the 1st. That is, April's there somewhere. Can we get to April? Maybe it's there. There we go. Not an April Fool's joke. It actually closes on that Monday. And then we'll set up the ballots and gather the bios. You can submit the bio as part of the nomination form, or you can email it in. It does need to be in a Word document or populated in the nominations part. This is all just the infrastructure paperwork stuff that we've done. And then we'll do our ballot. We'll open on the 8th and close on the 19th. And then runoffs, according to our bylaws, are 3 days. So we have those listed as the 24th, 25th, and 26th. And then officer nominations open on the 29th. We have to wait for the nominations. That's officer and EC member nominations. I'll clarify that. Open on the 29th. And then in May, if you can go to the May calendar, that the plan is to the officer elections to be held during the Faculty Senate meeting today. If you did not receive an election email and you believe that you should have, would you please email senate@tamu.edu so that we can check on that? And also please check your spam also to make sure that it didn't go there. And I'll put that in the chat too. So senate@tamu.edu. And if you'd like me to call on, Senator Moyna, did you have a question?
Yes, it's not a question per se. I am on sabbatical or FDL for the fall, and I do not wish to be considered because of that.
You can just email that information to the Senate office.
To the Senate office, okay.
Yes, and we'll reach out. If you
Yeah.
have situations like that, reach out to the Senate office, just put that email, and then we'll coordinate with you and your caucus to see how to do. Cool.
Okay.
Senator Alvarado?
Yes, how do we avoid unintended runoff elections, right? Because we don't know who's going to run again. And then you look at the list and you can say, well, let me place 4, and you might be running off against someone who you don't really want to run off against, right?
Well, I mean, that's
we have this situation every year, right? We create runoff elections that we don't need to have.
Well, so we do have a place system that has always been the case, and that gives people the opportunity to run against whomever they want, honestly. So if we don't know, like I said, if we know that someone's not running or not running for re-election, we've tried to omit that where they've indicated that it's empty. If not, if people haven't indicated, if they still want to tell us, we can let the caucus know that person is not running again in that position. But that's the nature of our elections. That's how we run this. I mean, that's the whole point of it, is to have that, and hopefully we can avoid runoffs, but sometimes that happens because multiple people want to be on the Senate. That's actually an exciting problem to have.
But sometimes they don't know which position is vacant or not. You know what I mean? Or I mean, vacant, not vacant, but
Maybe be on the bylaws committee, figure out a better solution.
Well, and the elections committee can work with them on that, but they can also ask the Senate office. They can always ask, is someone running for this position? Is it vacant? And the intent is also to reach out to the caucus members to let them know that there's positions available so that they can work with their faculty to nominate someone, which again has always been the case. Even if we did it paper in the old way, we never know until people are nominated whether they're going to run or not.
Yeah, but why do we have places to begin with for these positions? Why?
Well, we have to have places because it's a way of tracking who is, remember, everybody has a 3-year term and they're rolling terms. So the places are set so that you always have a third of your senators from each caucus up for election at any given time to provide continuity. And so if you don't have the places, then you can't track that. Now, it doesn't mean you have to run for the same place necessarily, but typically people do, but we have to have a place system to be able to track which positions are up for election. It's not just everybody gets so many senators. They're actually designated with the number of seats, which we have to do through the redistribution anyway. Senator Ariave, do you have something else, sir?
Yes, and I lost audio for a moment. So if we are incumbent and we're up for, I mean, we have the choice of, running again or not. Do we self-nominate ourselves, or do we just email the Senate office?
Yes. So you need to go, if you want to, thank you for asking that. If you want to run again for your position, you need to self-nominate. So it's not, you don't automatically go on the ballot. You have to nominate and provide the information for you to, which has always been the case. That's nothing different. So,
okay.
So if you follow the Qualtrics, it should be set up to where you can just self-nominate and you can put your bio right there and be done, and it'll be in there. I hope that answers your question. If you have issues, you can please email the Senate email address and we'll tackle those technical difficulties. I apologize if there are any. Katrina, Senator Laporte?
I know we don't want to talk about the methodology because you could go down a can of worms. But, this place system, it comes up every year. And I've been a senator now for 7 years, and it comes up every year. And I can't understand why we don't do it like the core curriculum does it with A, B, C. You're either in cycle A, cycle B, or cycle C, and all of cycle A goes up for election. Why do you have to have a numbering system?
Because we have apportionment. So we don't always have the same number of senators in a given cycle. So that's the part of the challenge also. Not only do we have places and specific number of senators assigned to it with the specific rotation, but in the next apportionment, a college could gain or lose seats, and so we have to track those seats.
Yeah,
and
but
so
you're always gonna have a 3-year cycle, right? So you're always gonna have an A, B, or a C. So if I'm an A senator then I know that in 2025, I'm out and I need to go up for re-election. I don't need to have a seat number.
We have to have a seat number to track the number of seats each college has, though, because that changes with apportionment.
But there
So
shouldn't
my college
have to
may
be a
have
correlation
17,
to the
in the future it
person.
may have only 15. And so we have to track the seats to determine which seats are going to roll off too.
Elections.
I will say that I understand what you're saying, Katrina, and there
I
are
do.
other
I
ways to
understand
do it.
that. Yeah, I
And
understand. I know it's confusing.
it could be that the numbers are just assigned after, and you're just A, B, or C, and that the numbers are
Yeah.
just assigned
Yeah.
to whatever seat
I
number.
understand that, but because of the fact that we have apportionment, we have a certain number of seats allotted to each college, we do have to track that. So it is very inconvenient, but it is quite necessary, unfortunately.
And that would be something that the bylaws committee, with working with the elections committee, would make a proposal for a new method and bring for a vote up, and a discussion first and a vote here. That's not going to happen before this election term, however, but that is a completely possible thing that could happen. And as a mathematician, I understand your issues, Katrina. Sorry, Andrew.
So I think one of the reasons why we have retained the seat system is it allows someone to knowingly run against someone else, especially an incumbent. So that's really why it has been hanging on.
Yes, that is definitely a true fact, and it has happened many times, or at least once, in my knowledge. But I'm sure it's happened many times. Okay, so any more questions about elections and the timeline? And that's just me. Yes, Katrina. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I had a question. This is really kind of sad that I'm asking this in the entire Senate, but what about members of the executive committee if they don't wish to be re-nominated to a position or rerun? When do we need to notify? When do we need to notify by?
So the nominations for the officers,
leadership and for officers, yeah.
That'll come up separate. So we have to know who got reelected to the Senate before we can do that. And remember, it has to be someone who's in the Senate currently, not someone who's getting elected and would take off and come on in September, which is why we always do the officer and EC elections in May.
So to give an example, both Angie and I are up for re-election, and presumably we will both renominate ourselves so that we can continue and provide continuity to this. But the way that the executive committee works is Dale did not get reelected, but he's still a member of the executive committee for 1 extra year. So if I don't get reelected, I will still be executive committee for 1 more year. So I'm getting over a cold. I will still be a part of the executive committee for 1 more year, even though I would not be a senator. And so similarly, Angie could be in some weird, similar crazy space, but I think she remains a senator for at least 1 more year while she is speaker.
Well, technically, the speaker doesn't have to be a member of the Senate to face exactly that situation. So if they were elected a speaker, I hope I get reelected, but if I don't, they still stay as speaker. It's a very weird situation, but it was intended.
It would be the same as me being, or Dale being, you'd still be in the executive committee and she'd be in the executive committee for 2 more years, whether or not she got reelected. And so essentially we do, first of all, you get reelected to be a senator. And once that's decided, then people decide if they want to run, and every single person except for Angie and I have to run to be on the executive committee. I will be on it, but if I don't run, I won't be a voting member of the executive committee, but I believe Angie will be a voting member no matter what. And so that's sort of how that works. So you can after we decide all the senators, that's when every single executive committee person decides if they want to run again, because those are only 1-year positions, except for the speaker and the speaker-elect.
Does that make sense to people? The former speaker, yes, the former speaker is the ex officio of the EC, yes. I see Jorge laughing. I think we've over-explained things. Okay, can we move on? We're doing great. All right. I wanted to get do any committees have a 2-minute update? Just fast, quick, fast and furious. What did you guys talk about? Please raise your hand. Katrina.
Last month I joined the planning committee and was promptly elected co-chair. We at the first meeting that I attended, we now have a standing guest, Joe Pettibon, the newly appointed Vice President for Planning, Assessment and Strategy. Pettibon gave an overview of his new office and responsibilities and asked us to review the current strategic plan. There was a couple of things that we had on the radar we wanted to discuss, which primarily came from the Art Science Caucus, which was about maintenance on campus. And we asked Joe Pettibon about maintenance on campus, specifically those things that we log and then they just never seem to get fixed, like dripping taps and toilets not working and elevators not working. So as a result of that, next week we have Peter Lange coming. He's the interim chief operating officer coming, and we are going to share with him a list that we have compiled of facilities maintenance issues that we would like answered. And I actually have a Google Doc that people can add to if they want to. I can drop that in the chat. The other major task that the planning committee is working on, am I at my 2 minutes yet? The other major task the planning committee is working on is personal electric vehicles on campus. And prior to me joining the committee, they were working on a document which we're also going to present to Peter Lang about the various silos involved in solving this problem, be it from safety to the police to rules to student responsibilities, faculty responsibilities, trying to bring those silos together. And then I had joined the committee primarily to try and address some of the IT related issues, but we haven't got there yet.
Wonderful. Thank you. Irene.
So the budget committee met on February 14th. We met on February 14th. We are in the process of completing the part of the charge that we were given, which relates to commercialization and patent information. And we contacted the Office of Innovation, and they are coming to see us in our next meeting, which is on March the 20th. It was scheduled for the middle of spring break, but we moved it. Originally, we contacted Pete O'Neill, and he referred us to Joe Elabd. And so he is the person who's coming to see us. The committee was wonderful. Both Dean and me, who are the chair and co-chair of this committee, have absolutely no dog in this particular fight because we do not do anything that is commercializable or patentable or whatever the noun is. But we did get a lot of input from the committee members, and we drew up a list of questions that we are going to ask the guest who's coming this Wednesday. So that's pretty much it. We will report when we hear. There were several things that came up. I don't have the questions right under my eyes, and I don't want to take up any more time. But basically, there were a bunch of complaints and concerns about how the office is sometimes slow to assist faculty, or sometimes actually seems to not assist faculty. Again, this is not something I have any firsthand experience with, but several members of the committee do. And that's it from us. We will report back when we see these people this coming Wednesday.
Love it. Matthew Sachs. You're muted, Matt.
Yes, this is a brief report from the research committee. our last meeting, we met with Natalia Flores, who is the director of Student Research Week, which is this week. Maybe too late for some faculty this week to judge. If I haven't gone and volunteered already, but I want to say here that postdocs and graduate students can also be judges for Research Week. So that something we learned that I want to relay. A second thing, just briefly, again, Dr. Brendan Rourke in the Division of Research asked for a representative from our research committee to serve on the undergraduate research program working group. After some discussion, Tracy Hammond chose to be our representative for this undergraduate research program working group. That's my report.
Thank you, Matt. Matt Taylor.
Yes, Doctors Haney and I are going to report very briefly on academic affairs. In recent meetings, we were scheduling Dr. Constance Langelier to come and speak about recent moves out of her office on mental health provisions for students. We pushed that meeting off because it conflicted with the joint meeting of A&M and UT Austin's Faculty Senate meeting, but we are rescheduling her. Some of our senators are working with Dr. Tim Cook's office on CD and ICD courses and offering needs and changes that need to be there. Dr. Haney, the co-chair, has been spearheading a lot of issues with Tim's office, with Provost's office on relationship to study abroad. So I'm going to turn it over to him to update us on that.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. We've got Study Abroad, which is we've reached out to about 5 or 6 universities identifying equal or relatively equal programs to reach out to them to come and audit ours. We're also going to meet with, we're going to have them meet with Academic Affairs to discuss those. Our representative who will be working directly with the reviewers is Dr. Farzan Sasangahar. He has elected to be on that committee directly, but we're going to hopefully have implementation of recommendations for reform of that office in place by September 1st. That's the goal, working over the summer to try to achieve those goals. We're also going to be discussing the revamp of the honor system. I see Dr. Michael Johnson is with us. We're going to be talking about the launch program and the steps that the Provost's office wants to take with honors. Dr. Matt Hoffman is also working on cultural discourse and ICD certifications. We're also undertaking that. And what else am I missing, Matt? Oh, minimum syllabus requirements. We'll be picking those up and moving forward on those. So we've got quite a bit on our plate going forward. So if anybody has any questions, happy to take those at the appropriate time.
Wonderful, Matt and Adam. Mark Cicillo.
Yes, Speaker Hammond, the Bylaws Committee has discussed and will probably vote this upcoming meeting on the possibility of limiting officers to 2 terms and expanding the EC, none of which will be in effect this election. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Legislative affairs, personnel, budget, any caucuses want to give a 2-minute? If not, that's fine. I enjoyed the quick updates that we got. Now, we discussed this last time, but I just wanted to give a little bit more time just in case, because I know that there's still a lot of feelings going around it. Just wanted to know if there's anything that maybe Brittany and Mo, is there anything you want to lead for, say, in terms of what's going on in Qatar?
Yeah, I mean, I've written something. Could I read it out, maybe?
Yes, please.
The statements about the stuff that you said. Okay, great. So this is basically when discussing with faculty in Texas A&M at Qatar, and they've shown concern. So I'll just read out a statement that we wrote. The faculty listed by names and projects outlined in the report urgently appeal for their names to be cleared. The allegations within the report are defamatory and pose a significant threat to our job security, personal safety, and the well-being of the well-being of our families. This situation not only affects us at Texas A&M faculty, but also has implication for our local and global collaborators, researchers, and students. It is crucial that this situation is resolved promptly to minimize the negative impact on the transition process. Texas A&M University at Qatar is committed to conducting research that not only advances knowledge, but also serves the public interest. Our research endeavors are transparent, non-classified, and conducted with utmost integrity. We prioritize compliance with all export control and regulation to ensure that our work is conducted responsibly and ethically. Central to our academic ethos is the principle of academic freedom, which we vigorously uphold. We believe in fostering an environment where faculty members are free to pursue their research interest without fear of reprisal or unfounded accusations. We are dedicated to protecting the rights and reputation of our faculty members against any false or misleading allegations. Certain organizations have suggested wrongly the faculty members at Texas A&M at Qatar are engaged in research related to national security and nuclear issues. We wish to categorically refute these claims as baseless and misleading. Our faculty members are deeply committed to scholarly pursuits that contribute positively to society, and any insinuations to the contrary undermine the credibility of our institution and the dedication of our faculty. We remain loyal in our commitment to academic excellence, ethical conduct, and the pursuit of knowledge for the betterment of our community and the world at large. Thank you. I think Brittany has something also to say.
Yes, you'll have to forgive us. It's almost 1 o'clock over here. So the false allegations published by ISCAP in their 2 reports are damaging and harmful to the targeted faculty and their ability to research. The Institute went to great lengths to try to connect our faculty's projects to nuclear research, but as we all know, our faculty here followed the same protocols as main campus faculty, and due to the international location of our campus, are subjected to additional layers of security and export controls. The faculty mentioned are chemists and physicists, not nuclear scientists, and their projects focus on benign subjects that have nothing to do with national security. Our faculty need the support of main campus to defend them and their research and reputations, and a public resolution would work in that direction. So we've drafted something. I don't know if that's the direction that we want to take with the Faculty Senate, but it would definitely be helpful for our faculty here.
Did you want to read what you drafted?
Sure. Whereas Texas A&M University at Qatar conducts research which is in the public interest and non-classified, Texas A&M University at Qatar complies with all export controls and regulations. Texas A&M University upholds academic freedom and protects faculty from false and misleading accusations. Other organizations have suggested that faculty at Texas A&M University at Qatar conduct research related to national security and nuclear issues. These suggestions are false and misleading. Be it resolved that the Faculty Senate stands by these colleagues. These faculty are in good standing in Texas A&M University, in their disciplines, and in the scholarly community of the United States of America. And I'm going to drop that in the chat.
Thank you, Brittany and Mo. Does anyone want to comment? Is there any discussion? Jorge?
Just a quick question. How many instances of faculty members being harassed or threatened? Do we have those numbers? Is it something rare, or do we have plenty of evidence to show that yes, it's a problem?
So, could I answer that, Tracy?
Yeah. Yes, please answer that. I'm before Mo answers, I'm going to preface it by all of these people are now looking for jobs as well.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's not good.
Go ahead, Mo.
Thank you. So a couple of faculty members have shown concern. Obviously, as faculty senators, me and Brittany, they've approached us and they have shown concern that they are worried. They've got their children at universities in the US, in Europe, and some people have approached them. So again, when you say evidence, I mean, is it written or is it verbal? I mean, again, it's something that can be discussed, right? So they have highlighted a couple of faculty members on that list.
But it's not just direct harassment, it's also avoidance. So there's some faculty who have been working with other researchers, either at main campus or other campuses or in QF. And because these allegations have gone out, they just don't receive responses back to their emails. And these are about the research project. So they can't even continue with researching things like MRIs.
If I may, just a follow-up question. What is the administration's position on this? Have they made any statements about it? Have they say anything to the press about it?
Yeah, so I go ahead if you want.
I was just going to say you put some in the chat, but please answer the question. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, not at all. I dropped 4 links in the chat, and one of them is President Welsh's response. So it was a public statement that he released to try to quell the results of what's come out of this report. But then ISCAP then published a second volume and went into even more detail on these professors. So they listed the project numbers. They actually went into detail on each professor in order to smear their names. So it got even worse after that was released. And we're pretty sure that they're going to release a volume 3, maybe a volume 4.
Any other discussion? Raimundo?
Yes, so basically, I fully support our colleagues from TAMU Qatar. What happened with this organization is unconscionable. I actually emailed the lead, whatever you call it, instigator for this report. He didn't reply or acknowledge my email. That's fine with me. Maybe I will appear in volume 3. Who knows? Actually, I will be disappointed if I don't. Actually, I was kind of disappointed that I didn't appear in volume 2. Now, this is an unfortunate joke, perhaps, but one of the things that I want to say is that this should concern all of us. It's not just TAMU Qatar. It doesn't make a difference, and faculty at TAMU Qatar and Texas A&M are the same. I treat them as my equal colleagues. But without making a distinction and without naming names, there was a faculty, who is based in the College Station campus that was also smeared in this report, right? So we should not see this as something that is happening only to TAMU Qatar people. If only it happened to them, it would be serious enough, right? And adding to the fact that this is happening, across the world in College Station shouldn't make this more or less serious, but this is a statement of fact, right? So this organization is just like, I don't know why, I don't know what is the underlying motivation for this, but this organization is smearing faculty, at Texas A&M, regardless of whether they are based in Qatar or not. So we have to take this very seriously, at least to the point of, expressing our considerable discontent in what they're doing, given the fact that the administration doesn't seem to push back as much as we would like them to do.
Mo?
Thank you for pointing things out like this. But also to add that the project that we have is in collaboration with College Station. Per se, myself, I collaborate with a lot of people at College Station, whether in College Station or US. For example, or one of the faculty members in Northwestern that I collaborate with the H-index of about 200, was also in one on the reports as well. So again, as highlighted in the chat, I see they can't distinguish between a chemical reactor, obviously, and that's we don't have a nuclear program at all. So it's sad to see this.
Rajesh?
I think just as Raimundo mentioned that this is a more general issue, and what we have here is evidence that any external agency can write something with very little support or anything like that. And people can do whatever they want. The really troubling issue is that our administration cowers and falls at the least criticism. And this is going to happen. And I completely agree with Raimundo. The fact that it is Qatar is immaterial. This will happen. We just heard today that there's an outpost now of A&M in Washington. That could be just as easily targeted. A&M faculty, we know that A&M faculty have been targeted in the Bryan College Station area before as well. So the issues, what do we do about this? And how do we address an administration that essentially gives all appearance of running scared? They're willing to do hasty things to avoid criticism. What do we do about that?
Good question. Any other discussion?
So maybe not adding to this motion, but I think that we should consider, like Rajesh said, like we have to call on the administration, right? You know, they always let faculty fend for themselves. And, they cower at the first, little whatever report that some crazy people write on Texas A&M faculty, right? So we don't, we cannot count on them to defend us, right? And yet they ask too much of faculty. So maybe this is not the place for that criticism in this, motion, but, I think that A&M is excellent in spite of the administration that it has. It's because of the faculty and students that we have, not because of the administration.
Anything else? One thing I would like to say is that tomorrow morning I've been with Brittany and Mo. We've been doing weekly sessions. We skipped spring break, or our spring break, not theirs. And we're meeting tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. It's pretty early for people, but that's 4 p.m. For them. And it's sort of, there's fasting going on over there right now, so things are a little bit complicated with timing. But if anybody would like to join us, you can ask me for the Zoom, and they'd probably love to hear your support. And yeah. Jorge?
So are we going to decide on how to proceed with the motion, or?
There has not been a motion.
But there should be.
I mean, she posted
Maybe.
something here, right? So that's the motion or this statement that we want.
Somebody has to say that there's a motion, and I don't make motions.
And do we have any faculty from TAMUQ that may want to
So the exact
say
wording.
something about it? Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion that we pass this resolution. Is that the wording?
Yes.
I second.
I second, yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? More than we've had so far? Okay. I guess we're gonna vote publicly on this. Andrew, can you put
Can I just, we may be able to get a poll up. We have one that Sherilyn made, and maybe she can quickly make another one if that would make people more comfortable. I think we could probably get a generic one made. Is that, Sherilyn, can you just make a poll that say
yes, no?
yes, no, basically on the
Rashesh?
motion and on the table? Go
I was
ahead.
just going to suggest to Dr. Klein that this is one time where we maybe want to do this publicly. I'm happy to make a public vote.
Yes, I mean, we should not be afraid of these crazy people. I Buckley publicly will vote in favor of this motion.
Okay, Brittany, can you put the chat again one more time of the resolution in there? And then if there's no more discussion, then what I'd like to see is for people who can you please vote like you would normally on a poll, like we did on the last two polls with an up or a down thumbs. Brittany just put it in the chat one more time. I know that a lot of our faculty in the communication and PVFA are also having some issues right now.
And again, we do appreciate your support. I mean, it's essential for the faculty back over here to see that you guys are supporting us as well.
Yes, there's been a feeling that we don't support the faculty there, and that they're thought of, second-class citizens. They're not allowed to have tenure, and so that's been causing difficulties, even though they're three-dimensional and have reached the status of, full professor. Andrew, are we?
I haven't seen any for a second, so I will sum them up here quickly.
I know that this will mean a lot to them.
64.
Mo and Brittany.
I got 64 too, Angie.
And again, anybody who would like to come tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., just you can send me a text message and I'll send you or just send me an email or what, and I'll make sure to get you the Zoom. It's very early. Yes, Rajesh?
I'm not sure that this is the time to ask, but this might be something where it's really worthwhile having President Welch come to talk to the Senate. Sooner rather than later.
So you're thinking about having an emergency meeting, or you're thinking in April?
At the very least in April. But this is the wheels are turning already. So this is for Qatar. This is an emergency, but at the very least in April.
Yeah, and imagine if you found out that your job is ending somewhere between 1 and 4 years from now.
If I may say something, so I think that the attitude of minimizing what is happening in Qatar, as disgraceful as it is, it is amplified at the administration level, because it seems to me that the administration just released that statement before Volume 2 was released, and that's it. There was no further response, right? Even though now the attacks were more personal and more incendiaries, right? So I think that the administration, and by administration I say President Welch, just decided that just making that statement was sufficient when this organization keeps attacking faculty at Texas A&M across the board, right? So definitely, they don't seem to be that supportive of us, and it is us who make the university.
Well, I would like to declare that the motion has passed. The resolution is now a formal resolution of the Senate. So, thank you all for your discussion, and I know this will mean a lot to TAMU Q faculty there. And again, if you want to be up at 7, just text me. I've been doing this for a couple weeks now, so. All right, so next on the list, I believe we go to Angie. Yes, I now invite Speaker-elect Price to take us into the Committee of the Whole.
Hello. I'm going to ask if anybody has anything for committee of the whole. Remember, these are items to come up for announcements, discussion, well, not really discussion, but future items to be brought forth to the Senate, issues that may be raised. Senator Woosley.
Thank you, Senator Price. During our caucus meeting, there was a discussion about the campus carry provisions of the university rule. And there was quite a bit of confusion over designated areas as gun-free locations and compliance and how to stay in compliance. Upon further inspection, the university website associated with campus carry has not been updated in some time. And as a matter of fact, the website appears to be the same as when the policy implementation was occurring in 2016. So I would like to have whatever committee or task force or somebody to look into this and get back to us.
Great. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Senator Robinson?
Yes, thank you. I'm speaking in my role as an affiliate faculty member of the Women's and Gender Studies program. And we have recently been on the receiving end of a lot of negative press, including an article in the Battalion on March 3rd, which reported that a Texas legislator is planning to introduce a bill to eliminate our minor in LGBTQ plus studies. So this is clearly interference with curricular matters. And I think this is, in light of our discussion we were just having, really something that we need to talk to the administration about. We need to know that, you know, there's not going to be this kind of political interference in our curriculum. Thank you.
Great point, Sally.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Senator Alvarado?
Yes. One of the administrators told me that they can no longer answer questions during the faculty senate meetings. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct. However, so if something gets called up that we need them to answer, we can get them to answer it, I'm sure. But committee of the whole was not ever intended to be that. If you recall, I mean, sometimes the provost would attend, but I mean, no, there's nothing that says they can't answer.
Well, I'm not just referring to the committee of the whole, but just any, this meeting.
No, if the speaker determines that we need to get an answer on something right away, we can get that. There's nothing that says they can't.
Okay. Okay, that's good to know.
Sorry, I don't know where the confusion was. Anybody else for committee of the whole? Anything? I see something in the chat. Seeing if they're okay.
I think there is some concern because it is recorded. So,
well, I think it's more, you know, people answer questions, but sometimes they don't actually have the information to answer it right away.
Right away, yeah.
You know, hopefully they would be thoughtful in their answer instead of just saying something because we asked them a question, but there's absolutely nothing that says they can't answer questions for sure.
Yeah, it's not fair to put people
Just
on the spot.
Seeing nothing else from committee of the whole, I return the meeting to Speaker Hammond.
One more.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you know, yes, it is recorded, but we go live and we go on the record with our opinions as faculty, right? So, you know, so what? You know,
sure.
You know, they probably don't like the fact that, you know, this is live and recorded, but you know, we are entitled to get answers from them.
Yeah, like I said, there's nothing that prevents that. Senator Alvarado?
You're muted.
I know that the director or the vice president for the Office of Risk Compliance retired. Do we have a replacement for him?
There's an interim. I think they're working on doing a search.
They are. We're working on doing a search.
Okay, and do we have any idea when that position will be filled, not with an interim, but with a permanent person? Do we know? Do we have a timeline?
I do not, I'm not on that search committee. I don't know.
Well, fine. What I want the Senate to do is to invite a new person to come to the Senate and explain what they do, because I submitted a report to them or a concern to them, and I got an answer that I didn't like. I mean, in other words, they say it was a private matter and that was it. So I didn't get any I don't know what happened when I submitted that request. So
Sure.
I want to know more about their processes, basically,
Right. No, I think that's a good point. And there are a number of searches going on. So one of the things that the Senate office can do is help to advertise to the senators, just like I think Secretary Klein sent out one for when someone's coming to interview on campus, that they can then have, know that you have people there. Like, you have the opportunity to interview people as they come.
Well, I'm not talking about who they interview, who they hire, more about what that office is doing these days. Well, I think we need to educate faculty about what they can do and cannot do. Because, again, for me, it's kind of a black box. You send a request and you don't know what they do when they get some kind of complaint, let's say.
No, I agree.
It's just a comment. Yeah, it's just a comment.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
I think
Senator
Andrew
Pietro
was going to
Antonio.
answer.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say that we had a visit. We invited our dean, Dr. Sable, here in the College of Ag, and our executive associate dean. And when one of our faculty mentioned that somebody had been followed and harassed, this was last month, a female faculty, I believe it was, in the College of Science, the issue was brought up, and Dr. Klein told us this faculty was quite passionate and asking her, are you going to defend us? And she asked the dean, are you going to defend us if something happens? And Dr. Klein answered that they have to be very careful on what they say in public because of MARCOM, that the communications office apparently at A&M is kind of, keeping them quiet. That's what she told us in the presence of our Dean of Agriculture. And he did not contradict her. So I don't know what's going on with the message of defending faculty. They are telling us, oh, we should be quiet. We're trying to protect you. This is when the issue came of DIE and diversity and inclusion. Move everything out of your websites because these are not your websites, they're TAM websites and so forth. But I don't know what MARCOM has to do with our administrators at the highest levels of the colleges, protecting academic freedom or all the things that we just discussed.
Thank you. Senator Klein?
Yes, since it was brought up, the university is bringing in candidate for the director of distance education and digital learning. And if you're interested, please read the email I sent out and send a reply to Janet Gonzalez, and you can get a free lunch. It would be great to have a lot of faculty there. This is our one opportunity to meet with the candidates. So I would appreciate your attendance. Thanks.
Senator Alvarado?
Just a point of clarification. So I'm looking at the website, the Office of Risk, Ethics, and Compliance. The Vice President and Chief Compliance Officers now is Lisa Aiken. So, so that position has been filled, right? I mean, she's not an interim, right? I just want to know. So, is that? Can someone from the administration tell us, if that's the case, or we're still having a search, or?
Well, I could be mistaken on whether I had a search or not, quite frankly, or maybe they did. I can't remember. I'm done so many of them. By the way, I'm on the search committee for the Chief Operating Officer of the university,
which is something else, right? Yeah, it's something else.
I'll check. I'm sure the EC will find out, or Speaker Hammond can find out and clarify that for you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anybody else for committee of the whole? Okay, I turn the meeting back over to Speaker Hammond then.
Thank you all. I hope you have a great, no more spring break, and that your day back was okay. A little intense probably compared to the last, I don't know, 9 days. Anyway, does anyone want to adjourn to end the meeting?
So moved.
So
Okay, all in favor? All right, have a great Monday evening, everybody.
bye bye.